here's that opportunity where you're now about to interact with that person. One of the best things you can do is, and I want you to hear the word carefully used here, grab full control of the call in the first 20 to 30 seconds. Now, this is not to be domineering. This is not to overpower the person by any means. No, it's to simply set the stage for, hey, here's how this is about to go. You know your business can change people's lives, but you don't yet have the right words to inspire them to take action. Imagine the changes you will create in your business as you tap into the secrets of ethical influence and positive persuasion to not only better serve your clients, but also to supercharge your financial freedom. I'm your host, Jason Linett, and welcome to the Hypnotic Language Hacks podcast. I help entrepreneurs and business owners just like you to close more premium sales. And no, this isn't about tricking or manipulating people, not at all. It's about helping your prospects to appropriately sell themselves into your products or services. Please hit subscribe and get all the episodes now at jasonlinett.com. You know, it's kind of a funny thing that oftentimes when I meet with people who are looking to become more confident in their sales process, so whether it's closing by way of a call, whether it's even promotion, advertising, or marketing, they often expect that the sales and marketing is some external thing that has to happen at the very end. And these are those people who have been trained to look for the objection crushers and the clever closing strategies, which surprisingly, that's not what this program, Hypnotic Language Hacks, really even has to be about. Let's inspire a process so that people now become so sold on what we do that they're making the decision to go further with us even before we make an offer. That's how we put in the influential systems of hypnotic language patterns in such a way that people are making that decision even before we make the offer. So this week's episode of Hypnotic Language Hacks is around that theme. Episode number 40, Sell Before You Sell. A quick reminder, you can always head over to jasonlinett.com/40. This is episode number 40. That's where you can find the show notes of this episode and even watch the video presentation of it as well. So let's sell before we sell. Let's jump right in. Before we get started today, if you want to easily grab people's attention, naturally build authority, and organically have your prospects wanting more from you, even before you've made an offer, I've created a step-by-step program to help you to do just that. It's called Business Influence Systems. And this is your opportunity now to visit jasonlinett.com to get a free behind-the-scenes tour of the exact hypnotic persuasion strategies that you can ethically use to better start up or scale up your business. If you want a proven framework to boost your confidence, attract premium clients, and inspire more people to take action with you, get Business Influence Systems now at jasonlinett.com. Let me kick off this week's episode with one simple premise. If you're waiting until the very end of your interaction to then make the offer, that's where you're going to start to run into some challenge. Because think of it this way. The old metaphor is, when's the best time to plant a tree? And the best time is either right now or 30 years ago. So the solution here naturally becomes, if you start to layer in the sales process inside of what you're doing. So by the time you even end up making the offer, if you even have to end up making the offer, now you find yourself in a situation where the person is already expecting it. They're already primed and conditioned for it. And rather than just talk to you in sort of these bigger picture overview, 30,000 foot views, let's get into some very simple strategies. Let's consider perhaps that maybe you're doing some sort of Zoom call in order to actually make the booking. Perhaps you're doing a high ticket phone sales process, whatever the platform would be. This is where consider the question of, where can you start to plant those seeds? Where can you start to plant those seeds of the eventual business decision earlier inside of it? I'll give you some simple examples here. One of the easiest ones you can do is to start to roadmap the sales process inside of all of your communication. If you're sharing a testimonial, if you're sharing some sort of feedback from someone in your program, if you're just sharing an anecdote as to something that someone has done with either what your product or what your service is, inside the telling of the story, if all you were to simply do was to say, this person heard me on my podcast and they scheduled a call with me. And what's amazing is that as soon as they were a member of Business Influence Systems, they just hit the ground running with that video influence formula. They took that and immediately started to churn out content. They started to batch produce their videos. And the amazing thing was that not only was their productivity up, but now this former fear of public speaking was completely gone, because so much of their concern was actually not quite a fear of the camera or even the audience. It was instead the fear that they would be on camera and not know what to say. Because we found if you know how to put the right words together in the right order at the right time, so much of the sales and influential marketing takes care of itself. True story, by the way, many times over. But let's look inside of that dialogue that I just shared with you. I roadmapped the reality that there are people who listen to my podcast who then schedule a call with me. And as soon as they're inside the program, I say you can watch the entire thing from start to finish and interact with the program in the order in which it's published. But then again, if you want, you can actually jump around and still absorb all of the material. So by telling that story, it's building that roadmap that this is what people do. You're listening to my podcast. I'll make an offer later to schedule a call with me. And this is that journey that people have already gone through to then find the full benefit of what I have to share. So look at the ways that you can just sort of embed into your stories there. The premise, and I love this as a business mindset, when you're the person who does the thing, you're the person who does the thing. And that sounds like a much more esoteric statement, but it's actually quite simple. Back pre-pandemic, I would be selling out live events. We've since moved all the events, briefly for now at least, online. And I'll tell you, one of the turning points that became that shift when suddenly we were selling out every class several weeks in advance was actually a really simple idea. I started to publish the photo of these 20 people around me holding up their certificates, having wrapped up the course. Ask yourself, what story does that image tell? The story of the image is that people sign up for Jason's class, and if you want to be there, you should probably sign up sooner than later because these things sell out. As soon as we hit the reality that for one of our events that we often host, we were selling out about a month in advance, we started to tell the story that, just as a heads up, classically, these events have sold out in advance, which for the recent one, we scheduled it in a way that some people didn't like. We put a bit of a break in the middle, and oh no, we only sold out 2 weeks in advance. Rats. But do you see what this story is actually telling? It's never meant to be the brag or the boast. It's never meant to be that, self-loving pat on the back. It's instead telling the story that this is just what people do. And by telling that story that this is what people do, it encourages that immediacy in such a way that we don't have to hit as heavily the 5 spots left. Promo code expires on Tuesday. We can do this in a much more organic way because now we're selling before we even sell by making it absolutely clear there are some parameters to sign up for this event. So far, embed the sales process in your stories that you tell. If there's specific case studies and testimonials, just simply call out how those people found you, and that will plant the seed for the actions that the next people should be taking as well. Also, as we just shared, look at the ways that, again, you can start to build that social proof that this is just what people do. I'll be very open with you. Getting the first couple of testimonials in one of my businesses was a bit of work. Now that as I book new people into my private services and the accelerator consulting, here's all these testimonials and stories, which now, what's the story you want to be telling? This is one of the questions I'll often ask in a sales process. What's the story you want to be telling 2 or 3 years out, having already done this? Which, by the way, that question is also embedding the sales process. What's that story you want to tell 2 or 3 years out from now that, the results of having already done this? To answer the question, there's an agreement set inside that, yes, they'll have already done it. This stuff is fun. isn't it? Only ever use your powers for good. Only ever use influential methods when you absolutely know for a fact your product or service can help that person. So inside of these dialogues, start to layer that in there. I'll give you one more here, which would be that in the opening of a call, and this is, even I'm surprised, one of the biggest breakthroughs that I've seen people have over the years. You're getting onto a call with somebody, and here's that moment where everything is going great, everything is going positively. That person is just absolutely loving the things you're talking about and the things that you can help them with. However, here comes the moment where it's time to pivot. Here comes that moment where it's time to pivot and ask them to take that further action. And I've had dozens of students over the years tell me the story that when they get to that point, they freeze up and they just kind of go, well, I'll give you a couple of days to think about it, and if it's a fit, call me back. And then they fade away. There's a book in the nonprofit fundraising world called Don't Applaud, Just Send Money. And it comes around to just simply asking for the investment, simply asking for the donation. And I'll tell you what, it's a whole lot easier to do that at the end of that sales process if you've already planted the seed for it at the beginning. Here's how. They're calling you. You're calling them. There's a scheduled call, and here's that time, whether it's on Zoom or whether it's by way of a phone call. Here's that opportunity where you're now about to interact with that person. One of the best things you can do is, and I want you to hear the word carefully used here, grab full control of the call in the first 20 to 30 seconds. Now, this is not to be domineering. This is not to overpower the person by any means. No, it's to simply set the stage for, hey, here's how this is about to go. Well, great. Thank you so much for scheduling this time with me, and I'll tell you how this works. First part of this is I'm going to ask you some questions to kind of see where you are in the shape of your business. Then from there, I've got plenty of time here scheduled for us. So if you've got questions for me, we can talk about that. And then only if I can see that what I do is a fit and I'm confident that I can help you out, I'll explain a bit further exactly what it is that I can do and tell you how we can get started as early as today. Sound good? Okay, great. So why now? Why'd you book this call with me? So in that opening preamble, I want you to hear a few things that were embedded inside of that dialogue. The way this works, which those of you already inside of business influence systems will recognize the power of a good embedded command. So the way that this obviously works. What am I saying in the first 20 to 30 seconds there? So the way that this obviously works. I'm planting that seed of that language, which will that one simple statement completely make the sale? Maybe, maybe not. But it's just kind of planting the seed of efficacy, of proof, of quality inside of the conversation. Use it, don't use it, that one's entirely up to you. So the way that this obviously works is that I'll spend some time asking you some questions to kind of see where you are in the shape of your goals, your business, your health, whatever your market would possibly be. And then we've got plenty of time scheduled. I'll open up some time if you've got some questions for me. And then if I'm confident that I can help you out, only then will I show you exactly what I do and explain how it will work for you. There's a lot of things that just happen in that sentence. Only if I'm confident that I can help you out will I then show you what I do and explain how it works. Do you see there's a bit of a cause-effect relationship that we're now establishing in the mind? The fact that I'm going to show you my program means I know I can help you out. And for full transparency, there have been moments about 7 or 8 minutes into the conversation where I see that what I do is not what that person is looking for, or perhaps they're not yet ready to dive into a program or consulting such as mine. In which case, here's the ethical aspect of it. I am not going to make that sales offer if I'm not confident that this person is ready to actually hold themselves accountable and be a part of it, whether it's an online community that I run or one-to-one consulting. So do you see that link? Only if I'm confident that I can help you out will I then show you inside of the program and give you a roadmap of exactly where to get started. Do you notice, by the way, it's not the exact same language every single time? This is where, as a quick side note, oftentimes in other trainings that I do, I'd have people go, I don't know how I could ever memorize all of this stuff. And the reality is I don't recommend you work towards memorization. Memorize the themes, memorize the principles, memorize the concepts, memorize the methodology inside of all the language patterns we share inside of the Business Influence program. And then from there, you can make it your own on the fly. You can customize to that individual. You will also hear those beautiful moments where clearly what you have to offer may be not necessarily what they're looking for because they want something bigger and better. And I'd be very open. I only have the accelerator program now because I had people who wanted to get the results faster and easier and wanted one-to-one attention in terms of going in and resolving those conflicts in their business, their personal life as well. So only if I'm confident that I know what I do can help you out, I'll then show you what it is and explain, here comes another command, how you can get started today. We're going to go for a checkpoint here. Sound good? Because of course it does. It's transparent, it's honest, it's not forcing somebody into something, and it's as simple as that. Something magical has happened, though, by doing that. By agreeing to that, sound good, makes sense, picking up what I'm putting down, however you want to phrase it, by getting that agreement based on that simple statement, that opening frame, what now happens is you've been given permission to make a sales offer at the end of that call. In which case, if you are confident that what you offer can help the person out, by all means, absolutely do it. So do you see how, again, we can sell before we sell by just kind of planting the seeds? So far, recognize if you're the person who does the thing, you're the person who does the thing. If you are doing big events and you've got those images of those big crowds, start to use them as soon as possible. Similar to that, something I brought up earlier, it's easier to get more testimonials if you already have testimonials. Recognize we all start somewhere. Inside of that too, embed the sales process in your stories. Talk about how people found you, and what you'll quickly realize is other people start to follow a similar route. And even better, as soon as you're on that call with someone, grab control of that conversation in the first 20 or 30 seconds. And again, it's really just that we're setting the opening frame. We're setting the conditions of the call. Here's how we do this. The same as the metaphor directly applies over, let's pick a random field, house painters. You've decided that you want to have these rooms of your home that color, and they don't just come in right away with the buckets of paint and then start splashing it up on the walls. Well, hopefully not. Instead, what happens? They come out, they make some measurements, and there's already a bit of an agreement set up there because you know you're calling a company to get an invoice, to get an estimate, to then begin. Then it's your task of picking out the colors. And even then, they show up with the paint, but they don't start painting right away. No, perhaps they ask you some questions around, hey, are you going to hang those things back up on the wall? If the answer is yes, they leave the nails, they paint around it. If the answer is no, they pull the nails out, they patch the holes. Then they do a few extra coats, then there's some touch-up. But do you see there's a sequencing to this? They're not putting that final coat of paint on until they've gone through all the other appropriate steps. So this is where my recommendation to you in terms of selling before you sell is find those places where you can start to layer in the sales journey inside of your communications. If you sell before you sell, by the time you hit that offer, they're ready for it, they're expecting it, and chances are they've already made that decision to go further with you. If this is something you need some help with one-to-one, I'd love to hop on a call directly with you. We've made this very easy for you. If you go to the website, exploreinfluence.com, that'll just magically redirect over to 24/7 access to my calendar. You can pick a specific time, answer a couple of questions so I can better prepare for that call to chat with you. And it's where you're not going to be passed off, at least for now, to someone else. It's going to be you and I discussing these themes together and seeing if what I do would be a fit to help you to go even further and enhance those sales, boost that confidence inside of what you do. So check that out. Schedule some time. I'd love to chat at exploreinfluence.com. You have been listening to the Hypnotic Language Hacks podcast with Jason Linett. Please stop everything and start exploring jasonlinett.com for even more business influence and persuasion resources. Make it a priority right now to subscribe to this program and listen to every episode, because the next one may reveal that one hypnotic influence secret to massively scale your success. Change your words, change your business, change your life. Get even more at jasonlinett.com.